homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen. Today I am making a ricotta gnocchi with garlic chives. And garlic chives, I'll put the Chinese name for them on the screen. They are quite different from regular chives that you're probably used to. They have long strappy leaves rather than round leaves, and then they have a beautiful white flower stalk that shoots up way higher than the plant. They will reseed, and I have quite a few of them that have reseeded around my herb garden. And so you can dig them up and use them, dig them up and gift them to friends, or just cut those flower stalks off as soon as they flower so that they don't spill seed everywhere. But they are absolutely delicious. And one of the things that they're used for in Chinese cooking is dumplings. And so it is a spring treat in Chinese cooking to take these and make dumplings out of them. And it's also, this time of year, ramp season. Ramp is another type of wild onion, and I don't have ramps in the western part of the US where I am. They're more common in the eastern United States, but I belong to a lot of foraging and gathering kind of groups online, and I always see all the posts about ramps this time of year and people doing things with ramps. And one of the things that came across my feed was a ramp gnocchi. And I've done ricotta gnocchi before, but I've never incorporated herbs into them. And I thought, I bet Chinese chives would be fantastic as a substitute for ramps in that recipe. So that's what we're gonna do today. These can be frozen and then really quickly reheated for a quick weeknight dinner. Ricotta gnocchi is, in my opinion, much easier to make well than potato gnocchi. I've played around with potato gnocchi. It's very hard to get potato gnocchi very light. I've had incredible potato gnocchi that were just ethereal and life-changing, but I have yet to be able to make that in my own kitchen. And they're very fiddly because of that, and so not my favorite thing. But a ricotta gnocchi is very easy to make and not nearly as complicated. I'm using a whole milk ricotta today. You can use whatever kind of ricotta you happen to have on hand, and we're gonna have some fun playing with pasta. Let's get started. I always like to give any herbs I'm using a good bath before I start chopping them up. And then I just rolled these in a paper towel to take off most of the moisture. And then I get to chopping. And for this recipe, you need a total of about 1/3 cup of chives. This was a little bit extra, and so I just set the rest aside as garnish. They dry very well as well. I often dry them and then just incorporate them into an all-purpose seasoning. You need 8 ounces of ricotta, and I do have this on a scale because that container was actually 15 ounces, and so I didn't need it all. Our chives, 1 whole egg. Mix that together. And then we're going to add in 1/3 cup of Parmesan, 1/2 teaspoon salt, and some fresh ground black pepper. And then I'm starting with 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. The original recipe called for draining or squeezing out extra moisture from the ricotta, which I didn't do. And I'm sure I would have had a lighter gnocchi if I had bothered to do that. But I ended up having to add probably another 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour after the initial 1/2 cup so that the dough wasn't so sticky and I could actually roll it out. I did let this sit for about 20 minutes after I got it mixed to let all of that flour hydrate, because I figured that would make it less sticky. And I started out using a piece of parchment paper here to try to contain the mess. And I'm totally channeling my Play-Doh days here. This would be a really great project to do with kids. And you can see I pretty quickly realized that that parchment paper is going to drive me insane. And so I ditched the parchment paper, figuring it's worth the cleanup. And then you just roll these into logs. And so I divided the dough up into probably about 4 equal pieces here. And you want anywhere from 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch log. And just keep your board floured enough that nothing is sticking. That piece was driving me crazy. There was kind of a weak section. And again, probably the more flour, you're going to get a slightly less tender gnocchi than if I had drained the ricotta. But I really wasn't feeling fussy about it, and so I didn't worry about it too much. And then you just cut these into bite-sized pieces. There is no right or wrong in terms of size here. It's just whatever you want to find on a fork. I was probably doing about 1/2 inch, I would guess. And I didn't super finely chop the chives, so occasionally I would hit a little bit of a chive when I was cutting these, but for the most part, they cut very nicely. And I ended up with a grand total of about 50 gnocchi. And then I did this a couple of days before I was going to cook them. We had a couple of dinner obligations, and so I knew I wasn't going to get to this for a couple of days. And so I just threw them in the freezer. And then here we are a couple of days later, pulling them out of the freezer, and they are ready to go into a pot for a quick weeknight dinner. And because I use this parchment paper, these unstick really quickly, even though they're frozen solid. And they're pretty rich, and so I ended up freezing half, and then my husband and I ate the other half for dinner. I could have easily eaten the whole batch between 2 people, but because they were so rich, I decided not to do that. Pot of boiling water, I did add some salt to this. And then you just put your gnocchi in. If these had been fresh rather than frozen, they would have cooked super quickly. I did give them a quick stir here just to make sure nothing was sticking to the bottom of the pot. And they should be done cooking when they float. And you can see these guys, this is sped up, but you can see them starting to pop up and float. But I cut one open just to check, and the center was not quite done because they had gone into the pot from frozen. So I decided to boil them for another couple of minutes. But all told, like 5 minutes tops, even from frozen. And then you can serve these however you like. You can actually fry them up in a little olive oil in a pan. You can drizzle a little olive oil over the top, which is what I chose to do. You can also obviously top with any kind of a marinara or tomato sauce. This is a really nice quality olive oil, a little extra Parmesan. And then some of those extra chives that I had set aside, which had been drying on my kitchen window for a couple of days. And that's all there is to it. So this is a really surprisingly fast project. Would be really great with kids. And again, you could double it or triple the batch and make it so that you could have it as a quick weekend dinner over time. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and leave me a comment. I have new content coming out every week.